Hey, this is Max Abramson, Libertarian candidate for president. I was just about to run off to the gym, so I'm just doing a real quick update. What I'm seeing on social media lately is, hey, we can't win, we never win elections, we don't get elected, why, how come we're only getting 0.8% on average in federal races, and there's a lot of doom and gloom and hopelessness. Well, look at both sides of me. Here is, sorry, there's the Johnson-Weld campaign. Both Gary Johnson and Governor Weld managed to win election and re-election in safe Democrat districts. And then over here, sorry, that guy, that's me. Reason I have so many campaign signs, of course that's my gubernatorial sign. I got elected and re-elected to Budget Committee. I got elected and re-elected to Planning Board. And I got elected and re-elected to the state legislature. So we have a lot of libertarians who have managed to get elected and re-elected running as Republicans. Of course, unfortunately, Bill Weld went back to the Republican Party, which I think was a mistake on his part. I would rather he stay in the Libertarian Party and become more libertarian. It's neither here nor there. So how is it that you have so many libertarians getting elected in nonpartisan races and so few getting elected in partisan races? Well, the partisan races are federal, state offices, occasionally county, like where I live, the county races are also partisan. That's about it. The Libertarian Party is only focused on partisan races, although there are a lot of people saying, hey, we're getting so many people elected in nonpartisan races for judge and school board and budget committee and all of these other positions and getting elected. So there's an old saying in the Republican Party that says conservative positions win votes. And a better way that I like to look at that is, okay, you have basically in politics the Totalitarian Left, and they are basically for Soviet-style gun control, Soviet-style urban planning under the name of smart growth, Soviet-style abortion for population control and eugenics, Soviet-style nationalization of healthcare, utilities, insurance, schools, colleges, utilities, and as we know as libertarians, socialism eventually gets turned into crony capitalism or some type of centralized system where the political class uses their political clout to steal from the public, block competition, and overcharge consumers and artificially drive down wages. And if you look at all these corrupt socialist third world hellholes around the world, it's not just the crime is out of hand. Even in the few exceptions where the crime's not out of hand, they're still socialist politicians are destroying their business competitors, forcing farmers off their land, shutting down farmers, ranchers, fishermen, loggers, truckers. All over the world are doing this. They're doing this in the U.S. So there's a Republican who's the first Republican ever to win in some Democrat state down south. It had gone Democrat every year for 100 years since the Civil War. And he was asked by other Republicans how he managed to be the first Republican to get elected there. And he said that there were 4 issues. Remember what I said, conservative votes, conservative positions win votes. He said it was pro-life, pro-gun, cutting taxes, secure borders. That's it. And he said that if he couldn't win a voter on one of those 4 issues, that he couldn't win that voter. So what do we have in the Libertarian Party? All we're talking about is cutting taxes, wins lots of votes, and protecting guns. However, you have some people popping up and say, oh, we want to be different from the Republican Party, so we don't want to talk about either don't want to talk about pro-life or push abortion on demand, which is an extremely unpopular position even among pro-choice people. Most pro-choice Americans, if you actually talk to them, they actually take a more libertarian approach, that they agree that the unborn child is alive. YouGov showed that 80% of voters believe the unborn child is alive, and you have to acknowledge that. And we have a lot of libertarians acknowledging that. But that they're really kind of leery about getting the state into it. People agree with the general libertarian philosophy, get government out of everything. In fact, I say that, and where I live, I get almost unanimously when I listen to people, listen to what they're saying. Almost everybody I talk to says, yeah, get government out of everything. So 6% of voters, this is from Republican polling, 6% of voters will vote only for a pro-choice Republican, but 8% will only vote for a pro-life Republican. So unless you live in a place like Boston or New York City or San Francisco, pro-choice position doesn't win votes. Say you're pro-choice or pro-eviction and you're talking to voters and it's just going to go in one ear out the other. You've got to acknowledge something that the Democrats, because they're basically soft Marxists, they're basically Stalinists, they're psychologically, what's left of the Democrat Party today, they're control freaks. And, you know, I hate to be blunt about it, that it is what it is. So on the abortion issue, regardless of your legal position, please just acknowledge that the unborn child is alive. And if you support a ban on third trimester abortion like 80% of Americans, then say so. If you're opposed to taxpayer funding of abortion or Planned Parenthood's regional affiliates, remember the money laundering scheme that Planned Parenthood and the Democrats and rhinos run, $573 million a year of your tax money goes through Planned Parenthood's regional affiliates right back into the campaigns of Democrats and rhinos and get out the vote efforts aimed at Democrat voters. So that's just a big scam. Don't believe in any of that. It's all lies. Although Planned Parenthood's not lying when they say, no, we don't do mammograms. None of our facilities are there to do mammograms. So the Planned Parenthood defenders are the ones who are not telling the truth. Planned Parenthood themselves, to their credit, at least they're coming in and saying, we don't do this, we don't do these cancer tests and whatnot. They just either refer people out or they send out for testing or something like that. They don't do a lot of the services that Planned Parenthood defenders say they do. So the fourth one is, and this is the big one that just keeps coming up, it's secure borders. So probably 99% of Americans are for secure borders, some kind of immigration enforcement. Whether you go left or right, whatever group of people you're talking to, remember, they want to hear what they care about. They don't want to hear what you care about. They don't want to hear what I care about. They want to hear what they care about. And no one, left, right, middle, anywhere, likes seeing companies like Tyson Foods illegally smuggling people in and replacing 80% of their workers in the 1990s. Replaced 80% of their workers at 5 different meat production facilities with illegal immigrants. And they did so, obviously, so they wouldn't have to pay American wages, American benefits, and so on and so forth. So regardless of what you think of that, that was highly illegal, and because of their political connections with the Clinton-Gore campaign, they managed to escape liability until about 2001. They didn't think that they were going to lose the presidency. They bankrolled, all these different companies were bankrolling Clinton-Gore campaign up the yin-yang, and what happened is Bush got in, and he had to appoint some conservatives down below as kind of tokens, and one of the things they did is they prosecuted Tyson Foods, 36 different felony indictments, violating all kinds of federal immigration laws and labor laws, and the bad guys went to prison. But is what it is. So when the general public sees that, probably 98, 99% of people are really angry to see that you have multinational corporations and multi-billion-dollar corporations literally illegally smuggling people in from other countries who didn't come through the proper channels, and you have to be cognizant of that. So what I say is pro-immigration, secure borders. Most Americans are pro-immigration. They like the immigrants. They just don't like political insiders screwing people over, and federal contracting projects, bridge projects that are supposed to be done by American citizens or people with holding green cards. If that is what the law is, they absolutely hate it when they're skirting the law and replacing American workers with illegal immigrants doing the same work for a lot less money, driving down wages. But again, it's not pro-market where they're going to then pass the savings on to the taxpayer, the consumer. They're passing the savings on right into their back pockets, and then some of it goes right out to Democrat rhino campaigns just like Planned Parenthood's money laundering thing. So when you don't just sit there arguing with people and yelling at people and say, well, you're racist, you're racist, you're racist. There's a backstory. Oops. And I'm messing up my hair. There's a backstory on this. There are a lot of scandals. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of bad stuff going on that you don't see. But remember, conservative positions win votes. The vast majority of Americans don't have anything to do with the totalitarian left. They don't like authoritarian socialism and communism. They don't like, Disney's political correctness, social justice warrior, turning Lando Calrissian into pansexual. They don't like the weird gender bender stuff that the cultural Marxists are pushing right now. And even a lot of socialists and social democrats are now walking away from the Democrat Party because it just, instead of dealing with real problems, they're more concerned with, as a lot of small town America sees it, putting sex offenders into the girls' room instead of dealing with healthcare issues and the loss of jobs because of job-killing managed trade deals. So talk to people like they're regular people. Don't talk to them with condescension, because we get enough of that from Democrats and rhinos, and they really come across as, remember the Elizabeth Warren ads, she says, I know what's wrong, and I know what to do about it, and she doesn't bother explaining it to you in her commercials, and she doesn't bother explaining to you how to fix things in her speeches, because, oh no, she's the ivory tower liberal, socialist, communist, whatever, who she comes from academia, and they don't have to deal with the private sector there, and she's been in government, and she's a lawyer, and she knows how it is, and you don't know how it is because she's so smart, and so she doesn't bother. None of the Democrats and rhinos will explain to you how to do anything. Pretty much everything we do through the Libertarian Party is going to ordinary people and explaining, here's how you can fix things. Here are zoning laws that you need to target to get rid of, minimum parking requirements, which we did in Seabrook. Took about 10 years, took a lot of work. I'm on my town's planning board. Minimum parking requirements are a disaster. We're finally able to get rid of them. So thank goodness, knock on wood, we're working on some of the other zoning laws that are creating housing shortages. Homelessness in my town, I live in a small town, we've got homelessness, high housing costs, high property taxes, pushing the property tax bill onto residential homeowners and doing all kinds of other damage, killing jobs and such. So that's the actual work. That's getting down into the nitty-gritty. How do you explain those things? I believe you have the right to reasonable use of your own land and the right to be free from unreasonable use by others. Other voters, you just explain it as, I believe you have the right to use your land for what you want so long as it doesn't harm anyone else. I use the harm principle instead of the NAP. I don't think that the NAP reaches people, and it's not very memorable, and it sounds like the Borg coming down from outer space pushing some kind of cyborg, weird non-principle on people that you're all going to have to conform to the non-aggression principle. It just sounds really weird and alien to me. So I just say the harm principle. You have the right to live your life as you see fit so long as you're not harming anyone else. That's the general philosophy. When I see people get angry at libertarianism, it's because they don't understand it, because somebody came in and argued for 15 or 20 minutes on their front door about the non-aggression principle that remember Locutus from that episode of Star Trek where he comes in and he's like, you will now comply with the non-aggression principle. Resistance is futile. It doesn't work. I've never seen anyone succeed with the NAP unless they really like to argue with people, and you want to bring more people into the Libertarian Party who like to argue about small minutia. And if that's what you're trying to do, yeah, use the NAP, and we'll go nowhere. If you want to bring people in who understand, if you want to make people understand, remember, two biggest problems that minor parties, third parties have is explaining what we're for so that people understand, and two, raising money, which is why I'm focused on raising money for my presidential campaign. That's at maxabramson.org. Just click on Donate 55 at the top of the screen and donate whatever you can. Remember, it's $500 or $600 for each convention. We're going to have libertarian state conventions all across the country every single weekend from middle of January, February, March, into April until the Austin Convention in May. Absolutely going to need, every little bit helps. But if you're thinking about donating, please donate now. $20 right now is worth more than $500 donated in May, because we have to buy plane tickets, have to print up brochures, send out fundraising letters, and reach out and contact delegates one-on-one. And it's impossible to do all of that unless we've got money in the bank before this December filing deadline. Anything you can do helps. Also, be sure to click like and subscribe. And if you have ideas, concerns, issues, questions, or you don't like this kind of Ron Paul approach, remember Ron Paul was the only libertarian ever to, in national polling, outpoll all of the other candidates for the general election. During the presidential primary in 2012, he was beating Barack Obama by 1 or 2 percentage points. It was like 49 to 48, 49 to 47. But Ron Paul, for a couple of months, was the only Republican candidate who could beat Barack Obama. Ron Paul's, Ron Paul libertarian, small town libertarian, and that's a very popular set of viewpoints, and his messaging was very clear: get government out of everything. But he also supported very clear messaging on secure the borders, protecting the lives of the unborn. And because he was clearer about that, what he stood for, he was able to win more votes and reach more voters despite a near complete media blackout. So learn from Ron Paul. He's right. Ron Paul was elected and re-elected, 15 times over the course of 30 years, even when the Bush cartel was trying to redistrict his district and get rid of him. That kind of messaging, that kind of platform, the Ron Paul libertarianism works. The arguing over where you are in the Nolan chart, in my experience, doesn't work. I've never seen anyone get elected arguing about where people were on the Nolan chart or pushing the board something principle or whatever. Just talk to regular people about how you're going to get healthcare costs down, how you're going to reduce crime, why you support school choice, smaller government, lower taxes, why you want to get government out of everything, why we want to get back to the Constitution, why we want to bring the troops home, and why we want to end this insane war on drugs. So if you want to see more, please go to maxabramson.org and click the donate button. So, Max Abramson out.